संसारधावा नललिधलोका त्राणाय कारुण्यगणगणात्वम् प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणर्नवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्र्यमाद्यान् मनसूरसेना रोमञ्चकम्पाशुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमार्जनादो युक्तस्य भक्तां च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गन् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतिक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् निकुञ्जयूनो प्रतिकेलिसीद्यै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रादिदाक्षात् अतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् साक्षादरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैः युक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोया प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यान् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jai Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Petitioner Bhakti Samstha Kachara Vaishnava Ceremony Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhari ki jai. Shri Sanatana Bhadragunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Aguna Sadguru Swami Prabhu ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ji ki jai. Ananta Kuch Vaishnava ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Jai Param Dayal Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Prema Naam Sankirtane ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandan Shriman Gaurang Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Harima Varana Avatar ki jai. Koloke Rapramadana Harinam Sankirtan Jai ki jai. Yudharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Brihadharma Transcendental Bhakti Shri Vishnu Seva ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Radha Kund Samakund Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrajabim Vrindavan Mathura Dham ki jai. Lord Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai. Shri Maya Purnavativ Eka Chakra Dham ki jai. Jai Param Karuna Shri Gauritai ki jai. Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smaspadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ki jai. Bhakti Sabha Vikna Vinashna Karishingare Bhagavan ki jai. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Maharani Prini Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Mathura Dharani ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi. All glories to somebody. All glories to somebody. All glories to somebody. All glories, all glories, all glories. Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha. Yato yato yami tato Narasimha. Bahe Narasimha Hridaye Narasimha. Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade. Tava karakamalavare nakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipur tanubringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jaya jagadish hare. Jaya Jagadish Hare. Jaya Jagadish Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय. भक्त शिरोद्मणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय.
Namo Nama Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi Jaitomara Sharanaloy Tara Vanchapurnaoy Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavanabasi Moraya Vilas Vilas Kunjeriyavas Nayane Heriva Sada Jugala Ruparashi Eini Vedana Daro Sakir Anugata Koro Seva adhikaradiye koro nichadasi. Dina Krishna dase koi eye namora hoy. Shri Radha Govinda preme sadaya nabasi. Shri Radha Govinda preme sadaya nabasi. Yani kani cha papani brahmatyati kani cha tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade pade. Yani kani cha papani brahmatyati kani cha tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade pade. Yani kani cha papani brahmatyati kani cha tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade pade. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol.
Beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. Marisa, to turn the service with Shri Radha and Krishna. We will take shelter of you as wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan. That's within my vision. I will always behold the beautiful residence of Radha and Krishna. I've been to make me a photo of carry hymns as a bride. Please give me the privilege of personal service and make me your own maid servant. Please very full and love you serving Krishna praise. May I always sing the love of Shri Radha Govinda. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Punamrita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snaparam Paravijay Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudhani Sarva Shakti Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrisham Ya Janinanurabha Trinarapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namanadina Kirtaniya Sada Hari Nadhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagari Shakaramayi Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Raitu Kitwai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paritamam Visame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tavu Pad Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shrudharaya Vadanam Gadu Gadarudaya Gira Pulakaya Rishitam Vapukada Tavanam Grahane Bhavisati Yugaitam Nimishena Chakrusha Prarusaitam Sunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Asli Shabapa Daratam Pinashtumam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotuva Jatathava Vidadatu Lampata Matprana Tastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Gautri. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana. which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years, and extinguishes the fire conditioned life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God is praised to raise the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which you are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested your transcendental energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion, service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somewhat I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet, O my Lord. Or will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Or will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he enters me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything, everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Krishna Kam Ki Jai. So there are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme, devoted to the etiquette life of propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, Shiva and Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic vision. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. Use some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities in the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often veiled as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter.
It is also an offense to be attentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarabhyascha, kripa sindhubhyevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Devi Sesa Sunivani Paskati Satarni. Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganya Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanivitam Shah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Shri Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Desha Sunyavadi Pasatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shiva Savanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishwaraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Virayate Guru Vir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurutrase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surator Bangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpradumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vansivata Tatastita Karsan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatak Striye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakata Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksa Vrite Susurabhira Vipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvananta Aravinda Dalayataksham Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobham Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Aloha Chandra Kalasat Vanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Patayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Tribangala Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Karyanti Chiyam Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigyahasya Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sadurlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Munibungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yas Chakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Sampraptya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Sukta Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adipurisham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa patibhavita bhista birya eva nija rupataya kalabi goloka eva nivasata kilatma bhuto govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santaks sadeva hidesu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Ramadi murti sukalani amenatistan nanavatar makarod bhuvanesu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramam pumam yo govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagananda koti kotisvasesu vasudadi vibhuti bhanam tad brahma niskalam anantam asesa bhutam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Maya hiyasya jagadanda satani sute trigunya tad visaya veda vitayamanam sattva valambi parasatvam visuddha sattvam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasat mataya manasu ya praninam pratifalam smaratam upetya lilaya tena bhuvanani jaya yajasram govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya devi mahesu haridama sute sutesu te te prabhava nichaya vyatascha yena govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Shristi stati pralaya sadhava sakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani vivarti durga ichana rupam abhyasya chestate sa govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Shiram yata dadivikara visesa yoga sanjayate nahitata pritakasti hetu yasambutam apitata samapaitikar govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Departure eva hita santaram apyapetya dipayate vivitayetu samana dharma yastadrigeva hicha vishnu taya vibhati govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yakarna narnava jale bhajati sma yoga nidram ananta jagadanda saroma kupa adhara shaktim avalamya param swamurtim govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yasyaika nisvasita kalam atavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadanda nata vishnur mahansahi yasya kalavisesu govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Baswanya tasma sakalesu nijesu teja sriyam kiyat prakatayat apitadvatatra brahmaya esa jagadanda vidanu karta govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Yat pada palava yugam vinidaya kumbha dvande swana Tunadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Agnir Mahi Gaganamambu Marudisascha Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakilagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Dharmota Papa Nichaya Shrutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kitta Patagava Dayascha Jiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakatapa Bhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yastrendra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Sevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadvisintan Mapurete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shiyakanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarava Juma Bhumis Chintamani Ganama Yitwayam Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chidanam Tam Jyoti Param Apitada Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bhishavati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan Nimedar Sakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatra Pisamaya Bhaje Swita Dvitam Tamaham Ihagolakam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshati Virachara Katipaye Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 5 Text number 45. Narada praha munaye Saraswat yastate nripa Dhyayate brahma paramam Vyasaya mita tejase. Narada, the great sage, Narada, Praha, instructed, Munaye, unto the great sage, Sarasvatya, of the river Saraswati, Tate, on the bank, Nripa, O king, Dhyayate, unto the meditative, Brahma, absolute truth, Paramam, the supreme, Vyasaya, unto the Srila Vyasadeva, Amita, unlimited, Tejase, unto the powerful. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. In succession, O king, the great sage Narada instructed Srimad Bhagavatam unto the unlimitedly powerful Vyasadeva, who meditated in devotional service upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, on the bank of the river Saraswati. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada instructed the great sage Vyasadeva as follows. Ato Mahabhaga Bhavan Amogadrik Suchishravaha Satyarato Drita Vrata Urukramas Yakila Bandha Muktaye Samadhin Na Nusmara Tad Vichestitam. O greatly fortunate, pious philosopher, your name and fame are universal, and you are fixed in the absolute truth with spotless character and infallible vision. I ask you to meditate upon the activities of the Personality of Godhead, whose activities are unparalleled. End of quote. That's now Srila Prabhupada writes, so in the disciplic succession of the Brahma Sampradaya, the practice of yoga meditation is not neglected. But because the devotees are bhakti yogis, they do not undertake the trouble to meditate upon the impersonal Brahman as indicated here. They meditate on Brahma Paramam, Brahma Paramam, or the Supreme Brahman. Brahman realization begins from the impersonal effulgence, but by further progress of such meditation, manifestation of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma realization takes place. And progressing further, realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fixed. Sri Narada Muni, as the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, knew very well the position of Vyasadeva, and thus he certified the qualities of Srila Vyasadeva as fixed in the absolute truth with great vow, etc. Narada advised meditation upon the transcendental activities of the Lord. Impersonal Brahman has no activities, but the Personality of Godhead has many activities, and all such activities are transcendental without any tinge of material quality. If the activities of the Supreme Brahman were material activities, then Narada would not have advised Vyasadeva to meditate upon them. And the Param Brahma is Lord Shri Krishna, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna realized the factual position of Lord Krishna. He addressed the Lord in the following words: Param Brahma Param Bhavam Param Dhamma Pavitram Idam Parvitam Paramam Bhavam Purusham Sasvatam Divyam Adidevam Vajan Vibhu Ahustvam Rishaya Sarvir Devarsir Naradas Tata Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Brahvisime. Arjuna summarized the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita by his realization of Lord Shri Krishna and thus said, "My dear personality of Godhead, you are the supreme absolute truth, the original person, in the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, and this is confirmed by Narada, Asita, Devula, and Vyasa, and above all, your personal self has also confirmed it." Srimad Bhagavad Gita 10.12-13. When Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation, he did it in Bhakti Yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy, in contraposition. And that is a big word, contraposition. The meaning of this word is that contraposition means a conversion of a proposition. When we say all A is B, and you change it to all not B is not A. So that's called a contraposition. So in this case, what is the contraposition? That is that Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation. He did it in Bhakti Yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy, in contraposition. So that means that without Krishna, there is no Maya. That's what it means. Without Krishna, there's no possibility of Maya, because Maya is a function of Krishna. Krishna is not a function of Maya. So without Krishna, there cannot be Maya. That's what it's talking about. That's what contraposition. So when Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation, he did it in Bhakti Yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy, in contraposition. As we have discussed before, the Lord's Maya, or illusion, is also a representation, because Maya has no existence without the Lord. Darkness is not independent of light. Without light, no one can experience the contraposition of darkness. In other words, the dependence of darkness, because without the light, there cannot be darkness. And darkness is not a function of light. That light is not a function of darkness. So it's very important to understand that, because a person who's always living in darkness, when he sees the light, it hurts his eyes, right? Because he's never seen it before. But it's the absence of light that causes darkness. So darkness is a function of the light. Light is not a function of darkness. The darkness doesn't produce light, but light can produce darkness when it is obstructed. Darkness is not independent of light. Without light, no one can experience the contraposition of darkness. However, this Maya, or illusion, cannot overcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but stands apart from him, apashrayam. Therefore, perfection of meditation is realization of the Personality of Godhead along with his transcendental activities. Meditation on the impersonal Brahman is a troublesome business for the meditator, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5. Kleso dikaritas tesam avyakta shakta chetasam. Okay, so this is very interesting purport. First of all, when it says that in the 5th chapter, 1st canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada instructed the great sage Vyasa. So it doesn't say which verse, but that verse is 1.5. I'm sorry. That verse is 1.5.13. And it says, Ato Mahabhaga Bhavam Amogadrik. So it says, O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Well, okay, so you see the translation given in the purport of the verse today. What does it say? It says, O greatly fortunate, pious philosopher. She's talking to Vyasadeva. Narada is speaking to Vyasadeva. Your name and fame are universal, and you are fixed in the absolute truth with spotless character and infallible vision. I ask you to meditate upon the activities of the personality Godhead, whose activities are unparalleled. So here we see a criterion for real meditation on the qualities and pastimes of the Lord. What are they? So it says you have to be a pious philosopher. Most philosophers today are impious. They don't actually believe that God is a person. And they have bad habits. Meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, sometimes gambling, or at least speculation. So, first you have to be a pious philosopher. You have to be fortunate. How do you become fortunate? Well, a person who chants Hare Krishna, first thing that happens is their miseries go away. Second thing that happens is they become happy. Third thing is they feel very fortunate. Fourth thing is they're not interested at all in liberation or Brahman effulgence, merging into Brahman. And fifth, this auspiciousness comes into their life. And sixth is that they realize that this is the special mercy of Krishna. It's a very rare thing. And this is from just by chanting Hare Krishna. These 6 corollary things occur to the devotee. So, Vyasadeva is fortunate because he is chanting Hare Krishna and always now pious, doesn't break the rules and regulations. Then your name and fame are universal. Yeah, there's no one equal to him. When it comes to literature and philosophy, there's no one equal to him in the whole universe. Right? And then it says, and you're fixed in the absolute truth with spotless character and infallible vision. Well, fixed in the absolute truth, that means Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He accepts that Krishna is the source of everything. And nothing is independent of Krishna. Everything is dependent on Krishna. And Krishna is present in everything as Paramatma. And he also encompasses everything as the Virat Rupa. And he also is the origin of everything. So, he understands all these things. So therefore, he is fixed in the absolute truth. And then he has a spotless character. He doesn't break any of the rules and regulations. He's always meditating on Krishna with infallible vision. In other words, he's never misled by Maya, by material desires, etc. So then, Narada says, I ask you to meditate upon the activities of the personality Godhead, whose activities are unparalleled. So, it's a very high criterion, let's put it like that, very high bar to be able to meditate 24 hours a day, every day, on the activities of the Lord. So here in this 1:5:13, it's the same verse, but it says, O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fortune, your good fame is spotless. You are firm in your vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Well, isn't that the devotee's purpose? It's to help people become free from the bondage of illicit activities and sinfulness, and bring them to the platform of becoming a genuine devotee who's always engaged in the service of the Lord under the guidance of bona fide Shiksha and Diksha gurus, and always regularly following the schedule of a devotee. That is, take rest early, wake up early, chant your rounds, etc. You know what it is. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, people in general have a taste for literatures by instinct. They want to hear and read from the authorities something about the unknown, but their taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures which are full of subject matter for satisfaction of the material senses. Well, if you ever go to, half-price bookstore in Bellevue, or you go to any bookstore, you'll see hundreds, thousands of books in all different subjects. This is cookbooks, and this is history, and this is religion, and this is economics, and this is computer programming. And this is, all these books, right? And according to this, they're all unnecessary. They're all nonsense, in a sense. Not unnecessary, but they're nonsense, because they're not going to help you become Krishna conscious. They're going to involve you thinking, and Prabhupada once held up a book and he said, what does this mean? Well, it means that every book is going to tell you, do this and don't do that. Every book. Even the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's going to tell you, do this and don't do that. Right? So, one book will say, take LSD. There were books like that. In 1960, Timothy Leary printed a book about, the virtues of taking LSD to open up your consciousness, right? And other books say, vote Democrat, don't vote Republican. And there are other books, vote Republican, don't vote Democrat. So every book is going to try and limit you in some way, right? Just like here, Krishna consciousness says there's certain don'ts and certain do's. Okay? So every book is going to do that in one way or another. So it says, such literatures contain different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification. And Prabhupada once was in a train, an Indian train, so you have these compartments, right? And you're sitting down, you're facing people on the other side of the compartment that are facing you, right? So you end up looking at each other, and usually people start talking after some time. So in the compartment that he was in, there was a young man and there was a young woman. They didn't know each other, but they started talking. And they both had, I guess, some education. And at a certain point, they started talking about Sigmund Freud and his philosophy. And they started mentioning words that Freud uses, like the id and the and different words that he uses in his writing about sex, right? So they started using those words because they had both read some books by Sigmund Freud, and at the end, so what's Prabhupada's conclusion? He said they were talking back and forth about the id and the ego and the false and this thing and that thing. And finally, he asked her, "What are you doing when you get to the destination?" And she said, "Well, I don't know." And he said, "Well, can I take you out for a dinner?" And so forth. You know. So in other words, all that big talk about Freud, it all ended up in sense gratification. See, that was the whole point. And they used all these big words that Freud uses, but the ultimate thing was sense gratification. So this is what's being said here also. He says, such literatures contain different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification. These literatures, although worthless in the true sense of the term, are variously decorated to attract the attention of the less intelligent men, meaning men and women. Thus, the attracted living entities are more and more entangled in material bondage, without hope of liberation for thousands and thousands of generations. Sri Narada Rishi, being the best amongst the Vaishnavas, is compassionate towards such unfortunate victims of worthless literatures. What? Look at victims of worthless literatures? That's like you say, a victim of a thief, or a victim of a molester, or so victim of worthless literatures. Look at that's an amazing phrase, right? And thus he advises Sri Vyasadeva to compose transcendental literature, which is not only attractive, but can also actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. That is what Srimad Bhagavatam is. It's transcendental literature, which is not only attractive, but can also actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. That's the way we should see. We are bonded. We're in prison. The prison is the body. And every day there's something that goes wrong with the body. And every day the body is changing. And every day the body is getting older. And there's always, especially when you get older after 50, every day there's a new pain or a new problem with the body. And that happens even at younger ages nowadays, because people abuse the body by eating all kinds of junk and doing all kinds of bad things. Srila Vyasadeva or his representatives are qualified because they are rightly trained to see things in true perspective. Srila Vyasadeva and his representatives are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vows due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls rotting in material activities. Now, would we describe ourselves as rotting in material activities? I don't think so. I think most people say, "What do you mean rotting? I'm getting ahead, man. My 401k is going up. My stock portfolio is getting bigger and bigger, and I'm getting promotions, and I got some patents also, and I have a big allowance when I retire, and this thing and that." There's, what do you mean rotting? This would be incomprehensible for most people. Rotting in material activities? The fallen souls are very eager to receive novel informations every day, and the transcendentalists like Vyasadeva or Narada can supply such eager people in general with unlimited news from the spiritual world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the material world is only a part of the whole creation, and that this earth is only a fragment of the whole material world. There are thousands and thousands of literary men all over the world, and they have created many, many thousands of literary works for the information of people in general for thousands and thousands of years. Unfortunately, none of them have brought peace and tranquility on the earth. This is due to a spiritual vacuum in their literatures. Therefore, the Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, are specifically recommended to suffering humanity to bring about the desired effect of liberation from the pangs of material civilization, which is eating the vital parts of human energy. It's like a carnivorous animal that's eating your flesh, right? These phrases that Prabhupada are using are amazing. The symbolism of them, it's just amazing, the import of it. Which is eating the vital part of human energy. The Bhagavad Gita is the spoken message of the Lord. Like the other day I did a program at someone's house, and when the program was over, their son came back from school. And I asked him, I said, what did you learn today in school? He said, well, I learned about quadratic equations and about black history. I said, you ever going to use that in your life? He said, I don't think so. You know what quadratic equations are? You know, and black history? I said, you're going to use it? He said, I don't think so. And he's only maybe 12 or 14 years old, right? This is what's going on. I mean, what is it doing? It's an exact description. It is well, basically it's eating the vital energy of a person to study all these nonsense subjects, right? Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for all living beings all over the universe for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. In other words, it's universal. It's not just on the earth. It's all over the universe, this book. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Such transcendental narrations of the pastimes of the Lord can be described only by liberated souls like Vyasadeva and his bona fide representatives who are completely merged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In other words, you have to be fully engaged in devotional service to be able to present the knowledge of Krishna, or the science of Krishna. Only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by dint of devotional service. Dint means by the virtue or by the means of devotional service. It's the only way. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many, many years. The descriptions of the Bhagavatam are so precise and accurate that whatever has been predicted in this great literature about 5,000 years ago is now exactly happening. Yeah, you read the 12th canto. It explains what's going to go on in Kali Yuga, and that's exactly what's happening right now. Therefore, the vision of the author comprehends past, present, and future. Such liberated persons as Vyasadeva are perfect not only by the power of vision and wisdom, but also in oral reception, in thinking, feeling, and all other sense activities. Oral reception is hearing, and then thinking, and so forth, and feeling and all their activities. A liberated person possesses perfect senses, and with perfect senses only can one serve the sense proprietor, Hrishikesha, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the perfect description of the all-perfect personality Godhead by the all-perfect personality Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Wow, what a purport. Right. So, then, what else is being said here? When Vyasadeva, When Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation, he did it in bhakti yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy, in contraposition. That's a big, big statement. In the end, it says, therefore, perfection of meditation and realization of the personality of Godhead, along with its transcendental activities. Meditation on the impersonal Brahman is a troublesome business for the meditator, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 12.5, Klesha Dikaritas Tesam Avyakta Shakta Chetasam. Well, there's some more interesting points here. We'll come back to the Klesha Dikaritas. But in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 7.84, it says, Krishna Visayaka Prema Parama Purusartha Yara Age Trina Tulya Kari Purusartha. This verse says, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are known as the four goals of life. But before love of Godhead, the fifth and highest goal, these appear as insignificant as straw in the street. Wow. Insignificant as straw. That means Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha are insignificant compared to Prema Pumartha Mahan, or pure love of Krishna. Well, everybody's engaged in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, right? The whole Satyanarayana Puja is all about Dharma, Artha, and so Dharma, Artha, Kama. It's not so much interested in moksha, but it's definitely Dharma, Artha, and Kama. So religiosity, in the form of rituals, Artha, economic developments, that's for sure. Not, and then Dharma, Artha, Kama, sense gratification. It's not it's not so much involved, not so much emphasizing moksha, although the whole point is if you follow these four things, you will make gradual advancement spiritually, if you have a bona fide Brahmin that's teaching you and doing the puja. But if you have just a money-making Brahmin, you won't learn anything. You won't learn anything about moksha. You won't learn, because he doesn't want you to go to moksha. He loses a client that way, you see. So now the purport, Prabhupada says, while chanting the holy name of the Lord, one should not desire the material advancements represented by Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, or religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation from the material world. We should not be meditating on these as the goal of life while we're chanting the holy name of the Lord. As stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the highest perfection in life is to develop one's love for Krishna. Prema Pumartha Mahan, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matam Idam. When we compare love of Godhead with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, we can understand that these achievements may be desirable objectives for bubukshus. Who are those? Or those who desire to enjoy this material world. And mumukshus, or those who desire liberation from it. But they are very insignificant in the eyes of a pure devotee who has developed bhava, the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Right. Dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation, are the four principles of religion that pertain to the material world. Therefore, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared, Dharma pujito kaitravo cha nirmatsananam satam vedyam vastam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon milanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni krite kimva purir ishvara sadyo hriday avarudyate cha krite bihi sususabis takshanat. Beautiful, beautiful verse. Second verse, Srimad Bhagavatam. And it says, Dharma projita kaitravotra. Cheating religious systems in terms of these four material principles are completely discarded from Srimad Bhagavatam, for Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. Now, when it says cheating religious symptoms in terms of these four material principles, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So that's the problem with the materialistic brahmanas who are making a living by performing pujas. They mislead people and they actually cheat them because they don't explain that the goal of the Vedas is not material, it's not performing rituals, it's not in economic development, it's not sense gratification, and it's not this phony moksha. Their moksha is they go to the heavenly planets and have a very long duration of life, and of course a very long duration of sense gratification and a lot of opulence. That's the moksha. It's the moksha of the Muslims. If you blow yourself up and kill some people, you get 70 versions in Jannat, which is a place where there are heavenly gardens and beautiful women and rivers of wine. That's described in the Quran. That is their Jannat. So that's not the spiritual world. That is the heavenly planets in the material world. And most Hindus are also aiming for the same thing. That's why I said there's not much difference between the Hindus today. Maybe in the past it was different, but today there's not much difference between the Hindus and the Muslims. If you analyze it carefully, you'll see the Hindus and the Muslims, they both want the same thing. But the Muslims are more strict in following, not all of them, but some of them are more strict in following their dharma than the Hindus are following their dharma. And one example is the 5 times a day azam, call to prayer. And there are Muslims here that 5 times a day they'll pray. Doesn't matter if they're in their office or they're in the airport or driving a car. They'll get out on the sidewalk, put their little rug there, carpet there, and then they do the Allahu Akbars. So, this is called cheating. Dharma pujita kaitravota. Cheating religious systems in terms of these 4 material principles. And they're completely discarded from Srimad Bhagavatam. For Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore it ends with the words Sarvadharmam Prityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 1866. To adopt this means one should reject all ideas of religiosity. In other words, all the ritual performances like the Satyanarayana Puja and other, there are many of them, many of them that people perform. And fully engage in the service of the Lord, which is transcendental to these 4 principles. Love of Godhead is the original function of the spirit soul, and it is as eternal as the soul and the supreme personality of Godhead. This eternity is called Sanatana. When a devotee revives his loving service to the supreme personality of Godhead, it should be understood that he has been successful in achieving the desired goal of his life. At that time, everything is automatically done by the mercy of the holy name, and the devotee automatically advances in his spiritual progress. So you want to make spiritual progress, you have to come to this standard that Prabhupada is insisting on it, because Lord Chaitanya insisted on it, because Krishna also insists on it. Krishna says exactly the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse number 42 and 3. Let's see what he says. Ya imam pushpitam. Ya idam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha Vedavada rata panta nanyat astitivadina karmatmanam swargapura janma karma phala pradam kriya visesa bahulam bhogaisvarya gatim prapti. Men of small knowledge are very much attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas. That's the Karmakanda section. Flowery words. Yes, you do this puja, you get this. You do that puja, you get that. You do another puja, you get more. Right? Which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say, the Karmakandis, that there's nothing more than this. There's nothing more than this. There's no Vaikuntha, there's no Goloka. This is it. And the heavenly planets, the beautiful ladies walking around, the airplanes, the good food, the nice bodies, and the sense gratification. Right? And Prabhupada says, people in general are not very intelligent. And due to their ignorance, they are most attracted to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and the material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotistoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of the Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness, as fools are attracted to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions. Unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama somam amrita abhuma and akshayam ha vai chaturmasya yagina sukritam bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the somarasa beverages to become immortal and happy forever. You don't really become immortal, but it expands your duration in a body that can live much longer. And it seems to be immortal for the mundane person, but it's not. It's not. Immortality is only in the spiritual world, not in the material world, or at least not for the common man. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women, and having a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. That's exactly what the Muslims are promising. And it's there in Hinduism also, you see. So that's why I say there's not much difference. Some people are, oh, no, the Muslims are like this, and the Muslims are, oh, no, the Hindus are like that. But there's almost no difference between the two now. The Hindus eat meat, Muslims eat meat. Right? and so forth. You can go down the list. It's almost the same thing. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. Lords with a small L. That's Bezos. There's this exact definition of Bezos. Lords of the material world. Okay, so what time is it now? 7:16. Oh, I'm getting good, right? Yeah. Are there any questions? I had a lot more to say today, but oh yeah. The question was asked yesterday. What are these 10 things that? What's that? No, it says. Yeah. Okay. It says Janmadasya is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said that the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to the supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain the 10 characteristics. Okay, so what is it talking about? Well, if we go to the first verse of the next chapter, which we're going to be there in 1 or 2 days. It says, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following. In other words, the 10 subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam, okay? 1, the creation of the universe. 2, sub-creation. That's Brahma. And the creation of the universe, that's Krishna. And then the sub-creation is Brahma. Planetary systems, 3. Protection by the Lord, 4. The creative impetus, 5. The change of manus, 6. The science of God, 7. Returning home, back to Godhead, 8. Liberation, 9. And the summum bonum, the highest perfection that one can achieve, 10. So there you go. The 10 characteristics, or the 10 divisions of statements, or the 10 subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so any questions?
Maharaj, obviously there's karma kanda, but even the people who are attracted to the impersonal,
Yeah. That's Jnanakanda.
yeah, they're also
Like that, yeah.
that's also some form of selfishness.
It's a material desire. Oh, I have so much knowledge. I know Nyaya, I know Jnana, I know this, I know that. But in the end, it's all about merging into the Brahman, effulgence, where there's no activity and no devotional service. So it's actually hell for a devotee. And they fall down. Although they attain such a high position, they fall down. Because they reject the personality of Godhead. Any other question? Yes. Oh, you're scratching your head, did you? Did you ask? You were going to ask a question? No. Okay. Huh? Okay. Yes. Just that. You want to fix the microphone for her?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
So, the assignment was to explain what the process of vidya, or real knowledge, is.
Yes.
And the references were Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 5th Chapter, 34th Verse, Isho Mantra 11, and Laws of Nature, pages 27 to 32. The purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 5th Chapter, 34th Verse says, or the translation says, thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Fruitive work is compared to a banyan tree because it is very deeply rooted and hard to remove. This propensity to enjoy the fruits of work is what keeps us traveling in the cycle of birth and death. Since it is very hard to remove the tendency to perform fruitive work, We can instead dovetail our enjoyment by linking it to the desire to carry out the service of the Lord. Thus, one can engage in karma yoga, which is the process by which one can get spiritual perfection while engaging the natural tendency to work. By dovetailing all aspects of work to the Supreme Lord, we slowly become engaged in pure devotional service. Devotional service will cut off the deeply rooted banyan tree and carry us directly to the lotus feet of the Lord. In order to cut ourselves from the great banyan tree and establish ourselves at the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet, we must do the following. We must seek the association of pure devotees who are self-realized, unalloyed devotees, and render loving service both physically and mentally in the association of such great devotees, without reservation, meaning with utmost humility. By doing so, we become more favorable to receive the mercy of the pure devotees. The blessings of those devotees inject us with the transcendental qualities of pure devotees. And with these blessings, we begin to experience the desire to hear the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Thus, we understand the knowledge both phenomenal and numinous, establish our eternal relationship with the Lord, and understand Him beyond the limited realizations of Brahman and Paramatma. The concept of understanding both phenomenal, or material or creation-based knowledge, and numinous, or spiritual and original knowledge, is elaborated on in the Isho Mantra 11 purport by Srila Prabhupada. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. What we must learn about the phenomenal knowledge is that the process of nescience is futile and always ends in misery. Srila Prabhupada explains this through the example of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman Hiranyakashipu was interested in these two things, money and woman, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 8,400,000 species. He also asked that he not die on land, in the air, or water, or by any weapon. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Nrsimha, the Lord's half-lion, half-man incarnation, and no weapon was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's nails. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of the wonderful living being, Nrsimha, who was beyond his conception. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? Sri Isopanishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. One is foolish if they continue to struggle for existence knowing that the laws of nature will never allow for it. One can never enjoy eternally in the material realm of life because they will always be thwarted by the laws of material nature. What we must learn about numinous knowledge. In order to prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead, we must first convince ourselves that that is our ultimate goal. The human form of life is different from the animal forms of life, and we must understand the rarity and preciousness of this life in order to become serious and assume the full responsibility of our role. Srila Prabhupada writes, human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras, godly persons. And those who are neglectful of these responsibilities or who have no information of them are called asuras, or demons. Throughout the universe, there are only these two types of human beings. In the Rig Veda, it is stated that the suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun. This is from the purport of Isho Mantra 3. So what are the responsibilities of the human beings that are followed by the suras, or godly men? strictly following the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, waking up early in the morning and chanting a minimum of 16 rounds in the Brahma Muhurta, hearing and reading Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure and self-realized devotees every day, and eating only offered prasad. So how can we combine the knowledge of the phenomenal and the numinous? We can learn to reject those material things which cannot be used in the service of the Lord, and dovetail those things which can be used in the service of the Lord. Thus we can achieve the Jivan Mukta stage and exhibit all the godly qualities, all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. This is explained by Srila Prabhupada. By such Purushottama Yoga, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporeal existence, and one exhibits all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is the gradual development by association of pure devotees.
Great. Very good. So, you see, when a person can be engaged in karma yoga, but unless they have the guidance of a bona fide guru, they can get stuck and think this is it. I'm making money, I'm living well, and this is what I want, and not try and go any further. That's the danger of it. The advantage of it is one can work according to their tendency or their preference in life, and if they actually give the results of their work to Krishna with the help and guidance of bona fide gurus, they can make gradual spiritual progress, and eventually come to the higher level of pure service with no material goal. But most people never get there because either they don't seriously take instruction from genuine devotees, or they're completely, owned by these materialistic Brahmins, or they don't want to really completely surrender. They just don't want to completely surrender. They're happy with that halfway house mentality. They live piously, and they're enjoying material opulence and happiness. So it's a very, let's say, as long as there's any material desires, one cannot get out of the material world. Even one material desire is enough to keep a person in the material world. Even Brahma, he had a desire to dominate, so he had to stay. He had to take birth again, But because he was smart enough to follow Krishna's instructions, he was able to dominate or be a controller in the universe and still make spiritual advancement and go back to God. Right? He purified that last thing that he had. So you can see how merciful Krishna is. But ultimately, unless we strictly follow the higher instructions, we get stuck. And we can't get out of the material world.
We get stuck because we only raise up to the sattva-guna.
Well, we go near the goal, but we don't want to give up. Just like the monkey gets caught because it puts his hand into a wine bottle because there's a cherry inside. But once he closes his palm on the cherry, he'll never let it go. In other words, even to his detriment. But he's so attached to that little cherry. Now, are there other cherries in the forest? Yes. There's plenty of them. But he went through that trouble, get his hand in there, and now he grabbed it, so he won't let go of it. So one material desire is enough to keep a person perpetually in the material world.
We were doing, Maharaj, exactly the same. following the rituals strictly, but no idea what is the real goal.
Well, because did the Brahmin ever tell you what the real goal was? No. He's not going to lose a client.
And I have seen like at least couple generations what my father and grandparents were doing, and all were doing very sincerely all the rituals, but at least I didn't get the
Yeah.
idea at that time.
I hope your mother's not still doing it.
She's not. She
Yeah.
has given up.
She understood. Yeah. Haribol. Okay. So we have.
Gopal Krishna also.
Oh. Yes, Gopal Krishna Prabhu.
You want to share his homework?
Oh, so okay, good.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Gopal Krishna Prabhu.
If we follow Guru and Krishna instructions, Krishna will give all the knowledge. Like Brahmaji, Krishna gave all the knowledge to Brahmaji. Hare Krishna.
Very good. You have understood Srimad Bhagavatam. Very good. Haribol. So are you going to do that? You're going to follow Brahmaji's example and strictly follow Krishna's instructions, and then he'll give you all knowledge and you go back to Godhead? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to play video games and talk nonsense and learn to be a materialist? I hope not. Haribol. Okay, Sanmukh is here to read his homework. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
The question was, explain what the process of vidya or real knowledge is. The definition of vidya or real knowledge is when all of one's activities are dedicated only for the service of the Lord. According to Bhagavad Gita 9.2, this knowledge is the purest, gives direct perception of the self-realization, and is a perfection of religions, everlasting and joyfully performed. Therefore, by learning this process of transcendental knowledge, one can transcend the cycle of repeated birth and death, and has a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. The knowledge is revealed in the different Vedic scriptures such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada states, to become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study the sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. Therefore, reading such scriptures is very important for those who desire to serve Krishna eternally. According to the material world, there are two processes of attaining knowledge, inductive and deductive. The deductive process is the best method, but because the material people are illusion, they follow the inductive process, in which one arrives to a conclusion.
Because what? Wait a minute. What did you say? Because what?
Because the material people are illusioned.
Okay. Then what happens?
They follow the inductive process in which one arrives to a conclusion through experiment and observation. The problem with the inductive process is that one's experience is limited. But on the other hand, the deductive process is perfect because it comes from a source of perfect knowledge. Therefore, the Vedic process is perfect. The knowledge of the Vedic scriptures is not experimental, but established by a surrendered soul and therefore definite with no mistake. In the material world, everyone is contaminated and doesn't have the time to read through the Vedic scriptures and completely surrender themselves to Krishna. Therefore, one should seek the association of pure devotees and eventually take shelter of a bona fide guru. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, Krishna states, Tad vidhi parimpartena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina sattva darshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. And the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Therefore, by taking the shelter of a spiritual master, one can get perfect guidance from a pure devotee of Krishna, who can guide one through ups and downs. Gradually, by hearing Krishna's pastimes, one will develop a strong attachment to him by which they will never forget their conscious position. This leads to unalloyed devotional service and developing into perfect knowledge of Krishna, which is the ultimate goal. Such a person realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Vasudeva Krishna, you are everything, which is Bhagavad Gita 7.19.
Are you going to do that?
Yes, Maharaj.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. The conclusion is that if you want genuine spiritual knowledge, You have to approach a bona fide spiritual master who has realized the absolute truth. Otherwise, you will remain in darkness. You cannot think, oh, I may or may not accept a spiritual master. In any case, there are books that I can learn from. No. The Vedic injunction is tadvignanartham sagurum eva bikachet. The word gachet means one must go, not that one may or may not go to Guru. To understand transcendental knowledge, one must go to a spiritual master. That is the Vedic version. Haribol. Okay, thank you. Very good. Very good. I hope you enjoyed doing your homework. Okay, so let's talk about homework for next week. So, yeah. So this verse, 12th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 5th verse. Tesa ikaritas chaiva. 12th chapter, 5th verse. Tesa ikaritas tesam avyakta shakta chetasam. Avyakta hi gatir dukam. Dehadvadbir avapyate. So it says, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So you have to read the purport to that verse and explain why it's so difficult following the Mayavad process to attain perfection. And at the same time you explain why it's so easy in Krishna consciousness to attain perfection. Okay? So you have to do some research. And so, okay, what are you going to research? Well, you have the purport to 12.5 Bhagavad Gita, right? And also, you have other verses to give you the 12.6 and 7. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me, without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So you don't have to go very far, right? You have these 4 verses, 2 on the Mayavad side, why it's so difficult, and 2 on the Vaishnava side, why it's possible and rather easy. And any extra research you want to do is even better. And there are many other places where you can research, especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Let me see if I can tell you quickly. Okay. Anyway, I'll let you do it. You can look up other references related to why it's difficult through the impersonal process, and why it's so easy in the personal process. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Is it in that conversation with Ramananda Rai?
It's okay. So you would have to go to the Adi Lila chapter 7, and you'll find a lot of information there. A lot of information. Haribol. Okay, who would like to sing for Srila Prabhupada? Anybody? Give him the words.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandhu moi savadana mate
Bandhu moi savadana mate
Jahara prasade bhai e bhavatoriya jai
Janara prasade vai he bhavatoriya jai
Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te
Krishna prapti hoya hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya
Arana Koriyo Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charani Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Chakshutan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se
Chakshudan dila jai janme janme Prabhu se
Divya gyan hide prakashito
Divya Gyan de Prakasito
Prema bhakti jaha hoite avijna vinasha jate
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vedika jahara charito
Vedika Janara Charito
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
Lokanath Lokera Jivana
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Haha Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Padachaya
Ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deya Mori Pada Jaya
Ebe Jai Jushuk Tribhuvana
Ebe Ask Sukti Bhuvana
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namini
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesta Shunyavadi Paschachade Satarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paschachade Satarine
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
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 Jai Shri Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hey Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanandi Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararaja Chastatara Satarishi Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gora Premanandi. All glories to the assembled, all glories to the assembled, all glories to the assembled, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana ki jai. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurumani Vachayani Devi Sesa Srimati Paskati Sattva. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes
and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic paramount emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and master of the universe. Most deepest love. We give you the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev ki jai. It was amazing last week, Maharaj.
I hope it's even more amazing this week. One thing is for sure, there's going to be more of it this week.
Very well.